On Mid-Autumn Festival, my husband brought his first love home for a family reunion, and I flipped the table on the spot. On my husband's birthday, I prepared what I thought was the gift he most desired, returning home early to set up a surprise. From dawn till late at night, he never showed up, and his phone was turned off directly. At midnight, a new post popped up on Jiang Yingying's, my college roommate, Zyro Hongshu account, home, love, and you. Wishing us more than just happiness on our birthdays. She paired it with a photo of a large hand resting on her waist, radiating a strong sense of security. After all, Chu Mu and I slept together for 4 years. I knew every scar and mole on his body better than anyone else. Noticing the faint scar on the back of the man's right hand between his thumb and forefinger, waves of nausea welled up inside me. Give them an inch, and they'll take a mile. I tossed the pregnancy test aside and couldn't resist commenting, "A bitch deserves a dog, a match made in hell." By the time Chu Mu called, it was already noon the next day. By then, disappointment had long since outweighed anger in my heart, especially when I saw the pregnancy test stick, which I had given as a birthday gift, lying quietly in the trash can. I felt both physically and mentally exhausted, no longer having the energy to pretend. The phone rang for a long time before I finally swiped to answer. Before I could even bring it to my ear, I heard Chu Mu's impatient voice. "Lin Yu, you've gone too far. You've misunderstood Yingying." Yingying, how affectionate that sounds. The man's voice was loud. Yet even so it couldn't drown out the intermittent sobs coming through the phone. No need to guess, it was definitely Jiang Yingying crying. Back in the dorm, she'd always been quick to tear up to gain sympathy. The other girls never fell for it, but I suppose Chu Mu must be heartbroken. Sure enough, the very next sentence I heard was, "Lin Yu, can't you be a little less petty? Yingying and I are just classmates. She's all alone in Shenzhen without any friends or family. How lonely would it be for her to celebrate her birthday by herself?" Ah, right, I'd forgotten they share the same birthday, so only her loneliness counts as loneliness, while I deserved to be busy all afternoon. And my anxious wait until midnight was just a joke. We just had a meal together, nothing happened. How could you say such awful things in the comments? Now Yingying's eyes are swollen from crying. Be the bigger person and apologize to her quickly. Turns out, this call wasn't to give me a plausible explanation. He simply wanted to seek justice for his white moonlight. I couldn't help but let out a self-mocking laugh, feeling utterly desolate inside. Chu Mu was still chattering away. But I hadn't slept all night and was truly exhausted. After taking a long, deep breath, I said calmly, "Chu Mu, let's get a divorce." I found out about Chu Mu and Jiang Yingying's ambiguous relationship half a year ago. It was purely by chance that I stumbled upon a familiar silhouette while scrolling through Zyro Hongshu, which prompted me to click and see what was going on. But then, every photo and accompanying caption hit me like a thunderbolt, leaving me dizzy and utterly unprepared. I couldn't hold back my sobs under the blanket, crying for myself and for the little life inside me. The moment I knew of the little one's existence, I was overjoyed, thinking everything would get better from then on. But now I understand, an unexpected surprise perhaps should have been nipped in the bud early on. Resting my head on the drenched pillow, my heart felt as if it had been plunged into icy seawater, sticky and biting, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. I opened my phone and replied to a few work messages. Just then, I heard the sound of a lock turning outside. I closed my eyes and wondered what expression he would have when he saw the carefully prepared dishes, flowers, and his favorite red wine on the table. Feeling smug, footsteps approached the bedside. Followed by Chu Mu sitting down behind me, he yanked the blanket away impatiently. "Is this little act of yours amusing?" I ignored him. Shifting further inward to avoid his filthy hands now within reach, I had been crying for a long time, and my nose was actually quite stuffy, making me less sensitive to smells. But the moment Chu Mu approached, I immediately caught the cloyingly sweet scent of his perfume. A wave of nausea surged in my stomach, and I couldn't help but sit up and retch. Seeing me in such a disheveled state, Chu Mu's angry expression momentarily froze in surprise, perhaps because I looked so pitiful. He finally softened his tone and explained, "Lin Yu, there's really nothing between me and Yingying. She just likes sharing snippets of her life, and those photos were all staged at her request. The moment he touched me, my empty stomach churned even more violently. In a panic, I pushed Chumu away, only to inadvertently catch sight of two small hickeys clearly visible beneath his slightly unbuttoned shirt. In the past, I would have demanded an explanation from him, made him give me a reason, but now, out of sight, out of mind. Chumu, just leave. Whatever relationship we had ends here. From now on, whether you and Jiang Yingying are burning with passion or whispering sweet nothings, you don't have to hide it from me anymore. Linyu, don't you dare slander Yingying. I've already told you, we're just classmates. Nothing happened between us. It's clearly your own paranoia making you think of us in such a filthy way. Look at you. How did you become like this? You're completely unreasonable. The more guilty someone feels, the louder they shout, and I won't indulge him anymore. I stood barefoot before him, yanking open the already loose collar, jabbing my finger fiercely at those two red marks as I demanded. What kind of classmate would be so desperate? She's shameless, and you're even worse. Anger stirred, and I couldn't suppress another wave of dry heaving. Seeing my genuine distress, Chumu's anger subsided slightly. He reached out again to steady me. You've been vomiting constantly. It must be a stomach problem. I'll take you to the hospital right away. No need. I only got halfway through my sentence when Chumu's phone rang. He pulled out his phone and glanced at it, looking somewhat guilty. It was Jiang Yingying calling. Chumu remained silent for a moment but still answered the phone in front of me. Hello, Chumu, come save me quickly. My stomach hurts so much, I can't stand up. On the other end of the line was Jiang Yingying's weak and painful sobbing. Chumu didn't even glance at me again, striding out the door while urgently comforting. Yingying, hold on, I'm coming right away. With a loud bang, the door was swiftly opened and then shut, and once again, I was forgotten. Jiang Yingying was Chumu's high school sweetheart, but they lost contact for 7 years after her entire family moved to Xining. As for me, I was Jiang Yingying's college roommate. We lived together for 4 years, and although we weren't best friends, our relationship was fairly harmonious. Chumu, on the other hand, was my client. We met each other at a business dinner, so none of us were aware of the connections between the three of us. When I married Chumu, Jiang Yingying hadn't gone abroad yet, but she already had a boyfriend at that time, and they both attended my wedding together. She and Chumu reconnected at that time. As for when they got together, it was probably within this year after Jiang Yingying returned to China, but that doesn't matter anymore. I would never take back Chumu, that second-hand goods. I managed to get some sleep and woke up in the evening, opening Xiaohongshu. I immediately saw Jiang Yingying's new post. Her delicate hand receiving an 4-drip was being tenderly cradled by Chumu's large hand, accompanied by a glaring caption below. With you holding me in the palm of your hand, even the coldest medicine turns into a warm current, soothing me to the depths of my heart. Disgusting. I couldn't help retching again, feeling even more desperate to go to the hospital and abort this unwanted child. When Chumu returned home, the sky was already pitch black. Perhaps unsure how to face me, this time he didn't enter the bedroom. I appeared silently in the living room. Watching him busily clear away the cold dishes and melted ice cream cake from the table. In the past, I would have been deeply moved by his proactive thoughtfulness, feeling like the luckiest woman in the world. But now, my heart remains completely unmoved. Seeing me, Chumu instinctively pursed his lips, stopping what he was doing to explain. Yingying has acute gastroenteritis and was in severe pain. Since she doesn't know anyone here, I stayed with her for a while. Stop being so unreasonably jealous. His pale explanation couldn't hide the fact that he turned and walked away, leaving his wife retching uncontrollably. But I don't care anymore. I even managed to curl my lips into a smile. It's fine. If you want to accompany her, just go. No need to tell me. Since you're back, let's go to the civil affairs office first thing tomorrow morning. Seeing that I still hadn't let this matter go, Chumu avoided responding to me and instead brought up his mother as a diversion to change the subject. The day after tomorrow is Mid-Autumn Festival. My mom wants us to go back together for the reunion dinner. No matter how much we argue, we shouldn't make my parents worry, right? Indeed. The matter of divorce should be made known to both parents. I didn't refuse, and Chu Mu visibly let out a sigh of relief. On the morning of the Mid-Autumn Festival, Chu Mu and I went downstairs one after the other, and he actually personally opened the passenger door for me. He never used to do that before, in front of me. He always struts around like a proud peacock. However, I didn't want to be close to him right now, rolling my eyes. I turned and opened the car door behind me. Slipping inside, Chu Mu's expression faltered for a moment, and he muttered, "What a lunatic," as soon as I sat down. I spotted 2 movie ticket stubs and a receipt for a pair of high-end designer heels by my feet. The date happened to be the same as Chu Mu and Jiang Yingying's birthday. Once, I asked Chu Mu to accompany me to watch Detective Conan, but he said it was a cartoon and laughed at me for pretending to be young and childish. Now, looking at the Kung Fu Panda movie ticket in my hand, I just raised an eyebrow mockingly, not even wanting to utter a single word of questioning. As for luxury shoes, Chu Mu would never take the initiative to buy them for me. It was always me who eagerly gave him gifts, and these were just the appetizers for the Mid-Autumn Festival, because as soon as I stepped into my in-laws' house, I saw Jiang Yingying's face appear in my line of sight. "Hi," she waved her hand, smiling with an innocent expression. Almost instinctively, I immediately looked at the shoe rack by the door. Sure enough, I spotted at a glance the pair of white high heels shown on the car receipt. My heart still felt inexplicably heavy. As I turned to leave, Chu Mu suddenly grabbed my arm. "Yingying has no relatives or friends in Shenzhen. I thought since Mid-Autumn Festival is a time for family reunion, it would be lonely for her to spend it alone, so I invited her to celebrate with my parents. At least try to be a gracious host. Can't you be more generous?" Hearing the commotion, my mother-in-law came out from the kitchen and urged us to come inside quickly. Before long, the dishes were served, all of which were favorites of both Chu Mu and me in the past. However, since it was a holiday today, there was an extra dish of plump hairy crabs. My mother-in-law kindly placed one on each of our plates, telling us to take our time and enjoy. The atmosphere at the table was actually quite decent. After all, we were at my in-laws' place, and they had always treated me well, so there was no need for me to make things awkward. However, Jiang Yingying suddenly cried out while eating the hairy crab. "Ouch, that hurts." Chu Mu almost instinctively took her hand to examine it, gently blowing on it twice, his tone nearly doting as he said, "Good girl, it's all right, eat the ones I've peeled for you." As he spoke, he pushed his own plate in front of Jiang Yingying and took away the half-eaten crab she had been working on, continuing to eat it himself, having grown up with a mother who worked in healthcare. Chu Mu had been raised with an ingrained sense of cleanliness. Even when we shared a bed, he had many taboos and was even reluctant to kiss me. Yet now, he doesn't seem to mind Jiang Yingying's saliva-covered food at all. My in-laws widened their eyes and froze mid-action, looking at me somewhat awkwardly in unison. My father-in-law even kicked Chu Mu under the table. Chu Mu got the hint and turned his head away uncomfortably, while I smiled knowingly and said, "Please, carry on." Not pretending to be calm, but genuinely indifferent, the atmosphere at the dining table became peculiarly tense from this moment onward. Finally, the meal ended. I really didn't want to stay with those two any longer, so I took the initiative to wash the dishes in the kitchen. In the living room, my parents-in-law sat between Chu Mu and Jiang Yingying as if facing a formidable enemy, fearing they might make any more inappropriate moves, distracted while washing dishes. I accidentally broke a few bowls with a careless lift of my hand. Chu Mu, sitting on the outer edge of the sofa, was the first to rush over. Seeing the shattered porcelain pieces scattered across the floor, his first words were complaints. "Lin Yu, you're such a grown-up, how can you be so careless? You can't even wash dishes properly." He's all gentle and doting towards Jiang Yingying, but when it comes to me, it's nothing but criticism. He didn't even notice my bleeding finger. Am I some kind of lowly person? Did I have to come here just to suffer? I smashed all the bowls within reach at Chu Mu's feet. The crackling noise startled all three people in the living room, causing them to rush hurriedly into the kitchen. Chu Mu roared, "Lin Yu, are you crazy? What's wrong with you? Causing a scene at my parents' house during the holidays?" I laughed coldly. You know this is your parents' house too. If you don't even care about saving face, why should I put on an act for you? It was at this moment that Jiang Yingying tearfully grabbed my arm, putting on a delicate and remorseful act. Lin Yu, I'm sorry. I didn't know coming here for dinner would cause a misunderstanding between you and Chu Mu. It's all my fault for showing up. I'll leave now. She said she was leaving, but didn't take a single step. Damn green tea bitch. I shook off her hand, and Chu Mu immediately shielded her by his side with a pained expression, as if afraid I might do something to Jiang Yingying. He said fiercely, Yingying is a guest I invited. If you insist on making such a scene, the only one who'll lose face is you. I couldn't be bothered with them and simply stepped over the porcelain shards to walk out of the kitchen. Under the shocked gazes of my in-laws, I went to the entrance and opened my backpack. The blood-stained divorce agreement was thrown onto the shoe cabinet. Enough talk, let's get divorced. With that, I ignored my in-laws' pleas and slammed the door shut as I left. I didn't go home, heading straight to a nearby private hospital instead. Public hospitals require appointments and waiting. I couldn't bear to delay even a moment longer. Only by getting rid of this child could I truly sever all ties with Chu Mu, leaving no room for hesitation. The pregnancy was early, so after the medication abortion, I only needed to be observed for an hour before leaving. When I got home, it wasn't even dark yet, and Chu Mu was already sitting on the sofa. I thought he would be accompanying Jiang Yingying. Ignoring his exhausted and pale face, I headed straight for the bedroom, only to hear Chu Mu's cold, mocking voice behind me. Lin Yu, oh Lin Yu, you've really grown some nerve, using divorce as a threat, on such a festive occasion. You had to make a scene at my parents' house. Now Yingying was driven out in tears by my parents, and I was also left behind to be lectured. Is this the outcome you wanted to see? I never realized how scheming you could be before. Faced with the accusations, I no longer even had the desire to argue back. My stomach was still cramping in waves. Holding onto the door, I walked into the bedroom. My indifference only infuriated Chu Mu further. He stormed into the room and dragged me out of bed. Do you think staying silent will solve anything? Get up, you're going to apologize to Yingying. He pulled me with such force that, still weak from the recent miscarriage, I was yanked straight to the floor. My tailbone hit the ground hard, drawing a pained groan from me as dizziness clouded my vision. After saying I'm not going, he lost consciousness. I woke up again in the hospital. Chu Mu sat by the bed, his eyes bloodshot and his hair tousled from constant pulling. His voice choked up for a moment. Lin Yu, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were pregnant. Immersive translate. I guess, he already knows. Fine, I've endured both physical and emotional pain. He can't just remain a complete outsider, can he? Seeing that I was awake, Chu Mu rubbed his eyes and spoke with deep sorrow. Lin Yu, why did you have to be so extreme? I'm the child's father. How could you make such a decision on your own without saying a word? My eyes ached as I struggled to hold back the tears. Chu Mu, when you were celebrating Jiang Yingying's birthday, this child's fate was already sealed, an unwanted gift. Should it be kept only to face daily rejection in the future? Chu Mu's body visibly trembled, his eyes growing redder by the second. Only now did he understand. What did it mean when I kissed him that morning on his birthday and urged him to come home early for a surprise? Our child was that surprise. Yet he personally destroyed this long-awaited family joy on the very day of the Mid-Autumn Festival. It was also at this moment that he realized I wasn't just throwing a tantrum or making empty threats. I was truly determined to divorce. I didn't know you were so bothered by Yingying going to our parents' house. What's the use of saying all this? I can't be bothered to listen, so I simply cut him off. Let's get a divorce. There's no possibility left between us. Every second spent with you reminds me of your favoritism and heartless accusations. Chu Mu didn't look at me or respond to my words, just silently tucked and retucked the corner of the quilt. His phone kept ringing one call after another. But this time he didn't answer, staying by my side until the four-drip was finished. When we got home, Chu Mu made me egg noodle soup and gently wiped my hands and face with warm water, strictly following all the doctor's instructions. At night, he quietly lay beside me, refusing to leave even when I tried to send him away. It was as if he still deeply loved me, Belated affection is cheaper than grass. I don't give a damn about it at all. After resting for 2 days, I've recovered quite a bit. Thinking about going back to work tomorrow, it's better to clarify some things. While packing my luggage, I placed the reprinted divorce agreement on the coffee table. Looking at the house I've lived in for 4.5 years, I'm suddenly overwhelmed with emotions. This house was fully paid for by my in-laws. To reassure me, they even added my name to the property deed before the wedding. Unfortunately, I'm going to let down their kind intentions. What isn't meant to be mine can never stay by my side forever. I ran my fingers over the small stuffed animals and wall paintings that Chu Mu and I had arranged together, letting out a heavy sigh. The doorbell suddenly rang, and I hurried to answer it, but to my surprise, it wasn't Chu Mu standing at the door. It was Jiang Yingying. This time, she didn't bother pretending to be pitiful or fragile. Instead, she got straight to the point, blocking the door as she spoke to me. Do you think getting rid of the child will make Chu Mu feel guilty and stop him from leaving you? Lin Yu, your methods are just too low. I came here to tell you that Chu Mu has always loved me. If you step aside quietly, I might even convince him to give you more of the assets. Otherwise, when this all blows up, you'll be the one looking pathetic, and you'd better not play the victim either. Is Chu Mu so anxious that he hasn't contacted her for several days? So, she's also this insecure? Amused, I raised an eyebrow and said, then you better keep a close eye on your own dog. Make sure it doesn't run out and cause trouble for others again. Wishing you two a lifetime together. I turned around, pulled my suitcase, and arrogantly brushed past Jiang Yingying. Leaving with style, I moved into the company's staff dormitory, a cozy and simple one-bedroom apartment. After settling in, I started working with peace of mind. Following Jiang Yingying's advice, I carefully took stock of my family's assets. I'm no bodhisattva. What's rightfully mine? I won't pretend to be generous and refuse, otherwise, who knows who might benefit from it. I don't know what came over me, but somehow I felt that Jiang Yingying, a wealthy returnee from abroad, shouldn't be the one bringing up finances in front of me. To uncover the truth, I opened my long unused QQ and slowly searched for names that weren't quite familiar in my memory. My phone vibrated, and I casually answered. It was the grocery delivery person arriving. The door opened, but it was Chu Mu standing there, holding a Walmart bag in one hand and blocking the doorway with the other. I haven't seen him for several days, and he looks much more weathered. He, who always pays attention to his appearance, was actually wearing a crumpled shirt with stubble growing on his chin. What are you here for? I blocked him forcefully outside, not giving him a chance to enter the house. Lin Yu, come home with me. If this had happened before, I would have been overjoyed. Because he is a rather aloof person who never easily lowers his head, let alone takes the initiative to reconcile with me. Over the past 4 years of knowing him, whenever we argued, it was almost always me who gave him the way out first. Otherwise, we'd end up in a prolonged Cold War, with neither sorrow nor joy. I extended my hand. Give me my groceries. As for you, don't show your face in front of me again until you've signed the divorce papers. Chu Mu refused and stubbornly tried to push his way inside. Angrily, I shoved him out and slammed the door shut, deciding I'd rather go without the groceries and fruits I'd bought. Going hungry is still better than feeling nauseated from disgust. For the next few days, to prevent Chu Mu from appearing again, I left early and returned late, unable to wait for me. He actually came to the company in broad daylight to openly look for me, holding a bouquet of fiery red roses in his hands. Seeing this scene, I truly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I used to envy other women whose husbands would come to the company to pick them up. Especially one of my colleagues who received different flowers and fruit platters every day. No matter if it's windy or rainy, her lover would appear punctually at the company entrance every day. Even if he had social engagements, he would proactively call a Didi to pick her up. At the time, I mentioned this to Chu Mu, unable to hide the envy in my words, yet he dismissed it with a disdainful shake of his head, saying, "How shallow these superficial gestures are, what's there to envy?" But in the photos Jiang Yingying posted on Xiaohongshu, she had been gifted bouquets in no fewer than 10 different colors. Now that this overwhelming fortune has fallen into my lap, I no longer need it. Once again, I ignored him and walked straight into the elevator. Chu Mu caught up and insisted on shoving the flowers into my hands. "Lin Yu, don't be mad at me anymore. Didn't you always want flowers? From now on, I'll deliver them to your office every day." How come I never noticed before that Chu Mu could be so clingy? "Let's part on good terms. Take these flowers back for Jiang Yingying." As we stepped out of the elevator, I pushed the bouquet toward him. He refused to take it, and the flowers fell to the ground, scattering broken petals everywhere, just like our shattered marriage. After that, to avoid him, I applied to my department head for an out-of-town training opportunity. I blocked Chu Mu and Jiang Yingying, and even deleted all traces from Zyro Hongshu. The divorce agreement was useless, so I decisively hired a lawyer to file for divorce. In short, I am determined to get this divorce. 2 weeks of studying helped me forget many worries, no longer revolving around family and romantic entanglements. My heart has become more fulfilled and confident. After returning to the dormitory, my colleague told me that at first, Chu Mu would bring flowers to the company to see me every day. Until the department head warned him, and only then did he stop appearing. It's been a long time since I last paid attention to news about Chu Mu and Jiang Yingying. Except for replying to a message on QQ 3 days ago, my mood has grown increasingly calm, and I've started joining in on gatherings with colleagues. In the past, I was always thinking about Chu Mu, rushing back as soon as work ended, sometimes even shamelessly bringing him meals. As a result, he looked completely impatient. Annoyed that I had disturbed his work, now, I'm living my best life alone, coming home whenever I please, and no one can tie me down. I started wearing light makeup and pretty dresses, no longer confining myself to that tiny courtyard. I saw Chu Mu again at the entrance of a private kitchen restaurant. With Jiang Yingying still by his side, my colleagues, both men and women, are mostly single, and they've all witnessed Chu Mu bringing flowers to wait for me at the company. So they're well aware of the history between us. When we crossed paths, Chu Mu stared at me for a long time, his eyes seemingly filled with a look of admiration. Meanwhile, Jiang Yingying quickly looped her arm through Chu Mu's as if to assert her claim over him. "Lin Yu, long time no see." The speaker was Chu Mu, who had noticeably slimmed down, making him appear even more strikingly handsome. I used to love his looks. I was wildly attracted to him at first sight and even took the initiative to add him on WeChat, because I loved too actively, always revolving everything around him. I ended up constantly being in a passive position. Now, seeing him still radiating confidence, I can't help but sigh, damn. This guy really hit the genetic jackpot. I didn't look at Jiang Yingying, only replying indifferently to Chu Mu. "Long time no see. This private kitchen is very popular, and without enough people, it's impossible to reserve a private room." All of us were seated in the main hall. I chose to sit with my back facing Chu Mu's direction, with only an aisle separating our seats. During the meal, Qin Ming, the newly hired colleague, was especially attentive to me, pouring me tea and serving me dishes from time to time. Amidst the cheerful laughter, Chu Mu approached our table with a forced smile, holding a wine glass. Startled, I quickly stood up. He took the opportunity to wrap his arm around my waist, glaring at Qin Ming with hostility as he said, "What do you mean by constantly trying to please my wife? Do I not exist?" Qin Ming was no pushover either. Though he was new to the job, he had already done his homework on my past. "Now that you know Lin Yu is your wife, why didn't you think about this day of being abandoned when you were flaunting your mistress around?" Chu Mu's wine glass was instantly splashed onto Qin Ming's face. He released me and grabbed Qin Ming by the collar. "Dare to say that again." Being harassed by an ex-husband in front of colleagues was utterly humiliating. I forcefully pushed Chu Mu away, then grabbed tissues from the table to wipe Qin Ming's face. "Qin Ming, I'm sorry, he's had too much to drink. Please don't take it to heart." I turned my head and shouted at Chu Mu, "Are you done yet? I have nothing to do with you anymore. Please leave immediately." Chu Mu's face was full of disbelief, as if he couldn't believe I would side with another man right in front of him and even personally wipe the alcohol from his face. "Lin Yu, tell me, you have nothing to do with him, right?" I answered coldly. "None of your business." At this very moment, Jiang Yingying also came over to pull at Chu Mu, saying with deep sympathy, "Chu Mu, My heart truly aches for you. It must have been so hard for you to keep thinking about her all these days, only for her to throw herself into another man's arms. Lin Yu simply isn't worth you holding on to her memory like this. These words were like adding fuel to the fire, provoking Chu Mu to clench his fists and aim a blow at Qin Ming's head. However, before his fist could land, Jiang Yingying's sudden scream filled the entire hall. Following closely was a furious roar. Jiang Yingying, you've caused me so much suffering. The person I contacted arrived so quickly, in just 3 short days. They traveled from Xining to Shenzhen and accurately located this private dining restaurant. It seems his hatred for Jiang Yingying runs quite deep. I watched leisurely as Li Shu, like a madman, grabbed Jiang Yingying by the hair and flung her onto the nearby steps. Before anyone could react, he had already slapped his ex-girlfriend twice in rapid succession. You vile woman, you swindled my family's money and ran off abroad with someone else to live it up, causing my father's death and my mother's blindness. How dare you still show your face in this world? Jiang Yingying's tender face instantly swelled up high, resembling the braised pig's head on the neighboring table. All the diners stopped their movements, and the hall became eerily quiet. Everyone was busy watching the drama unfold, momentarily forgetting to speak. Terrified, Jiang Yingying collapsed onto the floor and scrambled backward, shouting incoherently, "Chu Mu, save me, after all." She was his beloved white moonlight. Without hesitation, Chu Mu grabbed a wine bottle from the table and rushed over. As a result, Li Shu suddenly pulled out a knife from behind and swung it horizontally, instantly staining Chu Mu's white shirt sleeve with blood. He clutched his wound, not daring to take another step forward. Only then did the surrounding crowd realize the danger, screaming and scattering toward the exit. Beside me, Sister Lu quickly dialed 110. I never expected Li Shu to be so deranged. I merely contacted him to confirm Jiang Yingying's whereabouts over the past few years. I even thought she and Li Shu had already settled down together and gone abroad to build their lives. Even when Jiang Yingying returned a year ago and hooked up with Chu Mu, I only speculated that she might have divorced Li Shu. Little did I know. Li Shu told me that Jiang Yingying had swindled all his family's savings and secretly left the country with an older man 4 years ago, vanishing without a trace ever since. His father passed away in his early 50s because they couldn't afford medical treatment, and his mother cried every day until her eyes were nearly blind, and all of this was thanks to Jiang Yingying. This news was like a bolt from the blue to me. I never imagined Jiang Yingying could be so heartless. Fortunately, I was cautious when she mentioned the divorce assets. Otherwise, who knows how she might have incited Chu Mu to fight me for them. Li Shu's hatred for Jiang Yingying was evident in the way he pummeled her with his fists. By the time the police arrived, Jiang Yingying was already motionless. She got what she deserved. The fact that I didn't applaud and cheer on the spot was already an act of mercy on my part. Chu Mu was also mistaken for the adulterer that day and took 2 heavy punches, followed by a lengthy lecture and criticism from the police. After learning the whole truth, he completely abandoned his once beloved white moonlight. His shameless attempts to reconcile with me grew increasingly brazen. He said that as long as the verdict hadn't been issued, he still had a chance to win me back. Every day, he sent flowers and fruit platters to my office in various arrangements, and soon my colleagues' workstations were all adorned with flowers. I thought since these were all things bought with money, it would be such a waste to throw them away like in TV dramas. Better to make the most of them. My former in-laws often called to persuade me too, but even with the elders getting involved, I never relented. Later, Qin Ming also started sending me flowers. He was more charming because he knew to give me white roses. I don't like red roses, they're too ostentatious. In the world of love, I prefer purity. I don't know how Chu Mu found out that I was going to watch a movie with Qin Ming, but he was already waiting at the entrance of my dormitory, looking at my carefully done makeup and the fitted floral dress. The jealousy on his face was impossible to hide. He stopped me and asked, "Lin Yu, what do I have to do for you to forgive me?" "I've already cut off all contact with Jiang Yingying. I've deleted all her contact information, and I promise I'll never get involved with another woman again." His eyes were red as he nearly begged me, "Lin Yu, come home with me. From now on, I'll only be good to you, a broken mirror cannot be mended. Chu Mu and I had indeed reached the end of our road, with no possibility of turning back. I brushed off his hand from my shoulder and looked at him calmly, saying word by word, Chu Mu, let me go. Loving you for 4 years has already exhausted me. For the rest of my life, please let me be myself. I watched a movie with Qin Ming. When it ended, I told him I wanted to take a break and experience life alone for a while. If I must enter marriage again, it might be a very, very long time from now. At least for now, I don't want to waste the freedom and beauty of solitude. Gradually, Qin Ming stopped sending me flowers, and Chu Mu seemed to have vanished as well. The court's verdict arrived on the last day of December. At the beginning of the new year, I regained my freedom and couldn't wait to share the good news with my parents back home. They both fully understood my hardships and struggles, and neither of them uttered a single word of blame. Even my elderly grandmother cheerfully advised, life is unpredictable. What matters most is that our Yeye stays happy and joyful. I waited and waited, until finally the holiday break arrived. I happily packed my luggage, ready to set off for my hometown. My phone kept vibrating incessantly in my pocket. It was an unfamiliar number calling. When I answered, Chu Mu's deep voice came through the line. Lin Yu, are you okay? Amham, are you going back to your hometown? Amham, perhaps sensing my indifference, Chu Mu fell silent for a moment before sighing and saying, this is my new number in Shanghai. Even though we're divorced, I hope we can still remain friends. I shook my head. No need, I prefer to look forward, and you are already part of the past. Chu Mu, goodbye. I hope we never meet again. There was silence on the other end for a long moment, and in the end, I was the one who hung up the phone. I was once a decisive girl too, but because I took the initiative to love someone, I ended up losing my armor and self-respect. Though I regret not being able to walk the path of life with Chu Mu till the end, I have no remorse. Every experience is a treasure of growth, and what's more, I got a hefty divorce settlement. Now, I'm going to pick up everything I once lost, one by one. It's never too late to mend one's ways. I opened my email and sent out the resignation letter I had prepared long ago. No matter how wonderful Shenzhen is, it will never be the destination for travelers like us. I want to return to my parents and loved ones, becoming their most caring little cotton-padded jacket, be the freest Lin Yu.